The president's son is one step away from serious legal trouble. Federal agents investigating Hunter Biden reportedly think they have enough evidence to charge him with tax crimes and for lying about his drug use on a federal gun form. The legal fate of the first son now in the hands of a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in Delaware. Sources telling Fox the matter remains in a sensitive and critical phase. The feds appear to be closing in after a 4-year investigation, which started over Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings. Hunter Biden's lawyers not denying the story and instead taking issue on the leak, saying this: it is a federal felony. It's felony for a federal agent to leak information about a grand jury investigation such as this one. Any agent you cite as a source in your article apparently has committed such a felony. We expect the Department of Justice will diligently investigate and prosecute such bad actors. Judge, take us through it. What's going on?
Oh, I love it. They want the Department of Justice to diligently investigate that leak. Gee, what happened to that leak of the Supreme Court decision, that Dobbs decision? I haven't heard a word about that. Okay, let's get back to what we're doing here with Hunter Biden. They started this investigation in 2018. It's been 4 years. We know already that the grand jury concluded in the middle of the summer. Now, did they vote a true bill or did they not vote a true bill? Is there an indictment or is there not an indictment? In order to indict someone like the son of a president, you've got to get the permission of the Deputy Attorney General. That is Lisa Monaco, I understand. And Merrick Garland, everybody. Don't let anybody fool you. There's no wall there. Merrick Garland is making the call here. So they need that decision. Now, if they already got an indictment, then all they need is for the Deputy AG, the DAG, to say, OK, go with it. But then we're within 60 to 90 days of an election, and you're really not supposed to indict anyone where it might impact an election. Sure, he's not the candidate, but he's the son of a candidate, so that would apply as well. Now, they're talking about indicting him on tax crimes and making a false statement. Are you kidding? Number one, lying on that application for the pistol permit, that's a given. That is absolutely a given. What about criminal possession of a weapon? We've got enough pictures of him possessing that weapon while he's naked and various stages of being clothed and not clothed. So we've got a few more charges there. Tax crimes, plural, hopefully. What about Foreign Agent Registration Act? This kid was going through Europe with a vacuum cleaner, sucking up money in a pay-to-play for the United States. And Joe, of course, is the big guy that Tony Bobulinski has come out and said, gee, the feds came and talked to me, but they never came back. Now, let's talk about the fact that if they didn't vote that indictment yet, and if they have to get permission, they can bring back another grand jury or bring this grand jury back in. But his attorney says, well, even though the federal agents say that they have enough, it's not just the federal agents who decide. Well, gee, that's what happened with Hillary Clinton, isn't it? The FBI decided, but that wasn't right either. But here we've got them saying that the evidence is being provided by the defense that should be included as well. What is this, a trial or is this a grand jury? You indict based upon evidence and you go forward. Don't talk to me about defense evidence. And finally, what about this Tim Thibault, who Senator Chuck Grassley talked about suppressing evidence, and the whistleblowers came out and said they ended that investigation. So you've got all kinds of other charges. The timing is very unusual. Is anyone going to look at the paintings and whether or not that was a problem? That is something that should be looked into. There's a lot more to this than just a tax charge and the lying on an application.
Okay, you mentioned Bobulinski. He was on Tucker's show this week. He was talking about his interactions with the FBI. Let's just look at that quickly.
Would you speak to the FBI again?
I'd be happy to.
At any time?
At any time. No, not just the FBI, the U.S. Attorney. I mean, these facts are extensive, well-documented, easily verified, metadata, multiple sources saying the same thing. Zero chance that this has anything to do with Russia or disinformation.
So we've heard repeatedly accounts that there is or was a grand jury impaneled in Delaware.
Yeah.
What do you know about that?
I know one thing, I haven't been called in front of them.
That's amazing.
Right? I think that, Jesse, that's what I was going to ask you about, that here you have somebody who has a lot of information. He was willing to talk to them, but they didn't even call.
They're trying to contain it, but you can't contain what's going on with the Biden family. It's just too big. And it's no coincidence that this report comes out days after Tony B goes on Tucker Carlson and blows the whole thing wide open again. My source tells me that Hunter Biden rejected a pretty sweet plea deal, and they were going to have him plead no prison time, a couple $1 million in fines, and he turned it down. That was a bad idea, because now I'm hearing it's about $15 million in fines, and they're throwing more felonies that he has to plead to. We're hearing about whistleblowers that are coming out in the FBI. We're hearing about possible more whistleblowers who know and have done business with the Biden family, possibly coming out publicly. When the Republicans take the House, who's it going to be? Jim Jordan, one of these guys is going to have the gavel, and they're going to be calling associates of the Biden family to testify under oath on live television. They will be subpoenaing Treasury records that show these suspicious wire transfers from China and Russia and God knows where. They're not going to be able to stop that. CNN, MSNBC, they haven't seen this evidence, but you're going to have Tony B, you're going to have more people coming out under oath, answering questions. This is not a Hunter story. This is a Joe Biden story. The House of Cards could fall if they keep the pressure on. Think about this. If you follow the evidence to where this is going, Joe Biden's a traitor, because Joe Biden was going to be the front man for China's Belt and Road Initiative. China's Belt and Road Initiative was the biggest challenge to United States supremacy we've ever had. This is their imperial commercial strategy to supplant the United States as the #1 world power. They were paying the Biden family to be the face of that, the American face of the Chinese Belt and Road. And Biden was getting paid to do that.
So he...
I don't see how you can keep this under wraps for that much longer. And this might be the perfect excuse for the Democrats to say, hey, Joe, we don't want you to run anymore. Here's a good excuse why you're not going to.
One of the things that they say on the Democratic side about Trump is that, on the Mar-a-Lago raid, is that no one is above the law. Well, does that work this way, too?
God, I wish I had like Hunter's power. Like nobody I know could get away with all of this for so long. To your point about the fact that, you know, maybe this is good for the Democrats. If you were to report any of this stuff prior to the 2020 election, you would have been banned from social media, ostracized by all the smarty pants in the media. But now it's okay. Right? And I think it's because they realized the cabal to bury the story worked. They got Joe elected, and now they can use the story to bury Joe. So I don't think there isn't an urgency or rush to stop this story, because, you know what, if it does the work that they want it to do, which is to get Joe off the stage, then actually it's going to work for them. I think, however, before we discuss any more of this, we should run it by the exact same 50 intel agents to find out if this is actually more Russian disinfo. And I just think that it's weird, you know. For me, I'm so jaded by the Hunter Biden stuff that I can't even tell what's a big deal anymore. Like, is this the big deal? Is it not the big deal? I think that's another success of the media, is that if the Biden stuff had come out in one big chunk, it would have been staggering beyond any scandal. I mean, that collusion, the influence peddling, the drugs, the hookers, the guns, it's a massive story. But it kind of like dripped out. It was diluted by time. So now it's kind of like a daily comic strip. And it's like, oh, yeah, that guy. We don't even report on it as much. But I think that, like, I do believe that if Congress is won by the Republicans, they definitely have to do hearings.
And I bet that they call up those intel people
one by
as
one.
well. Harold, let's give you the last word. You have the floor.
So if the reporting is accurate, which you have to believe that a lot of this is, particularly, Dana, since you said Hunter's lawyers have not refuted any of this or not responded, it sounds like Hunter Biden will be subjected to the American legal process. He knows as well as anyone, he's a graduate of one of the great law schools in this country, Yale Law School, that no one's above the law, and he'll have to face whatever it is he has to face. I don't have a whole lot to say other than the reporting is what it is, and I've always said any time this investigation under him started, I believe, under President Trump, and now it looks as if it may conclude in an indictment. I'd say one last thing. I don't take any glee in anyone who has misfortune or has a fall. He's written about this episode in his life, talked about the addictions to drugs and alcohol. I'm blessed to not have those addictions, and we're all blessed to not have those kinds of addictions. That's no excuse for it. But I wish him and his family the best, and he'll have to face these consequences.
I want to say one more thing. It clearly is no excuse. It's no defense. But let me make one thing perfectly clear. There are people in this country who have served time in federal prison when they have actually paid their taxes back. And the fact that this man was offered a plea bargain with no jail time means he's already getting this sweet deal when other people have not.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.